Hi everyone. I'm Julia. I'm from One More Page Books. And I'm not going to sit down, so that's why this is so weird for me to be utilizing this microphone. That was clearly here for that purpose. Thank you so much all for being here. I really appreciate seeing people in real life. We have not had an in-person event in a very long time. And this is a really special one to celebrate. So we are really excited to be here in Prologue here, which is an amazing local independent theater here in Arlington. So if you are local and you don't already follow them on social media, I would highly recommend that. Check out all the really cool things that they have coming up, and we're so grateful to them for making sure that we can have, you know, things like microphones and a stage and roofs and chairs. So shout out to Prologue, the real necessities in life. And you know, mostly we're very grateful to the authors to be here with us. Bookstores would be very sad without authors to write books. And I have to say, if you are here, you probably already are familiar with Sasha or Casey or both. Sasha has so many people who pre-ordered her book, and I am delighted for her. And I have to say, I haven't read The Witch yet, but I did read the acknowledgements. And I did cry. So if you are one of the people that has mentioned the acknowledgements, of which I know there are several of you here, thank you for supporting Sasha and for being here to celebrate. And if you're not in the acknowledgements, try harder next time. Maybe you can be in the acknowledgements for the next book. And keep buying books so that Sasha can keep writing them. So, you know, just to buy her friend, you know, the holidays are coming, birthdays, etc. So keep that in mind. Yeah, so I'm not going to do a very long introduction. I know you're like, whoa, why did you start talking 2 minutes ago? But I just want to thank you all and thank the authors. Casey McQuiston is also here. Obviously, the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue and One Stop. And the upcoming May 2022 is Orchestra Wheel. So, yep, you can pre-order that. Highly recommend. And just a couple logistical notes. We're going to have the authors here discussing, having a great, just really incredible conversation. No offense, I don't want to set the bar too high. And then after that, you have a wristband, hopefully, if you're here. If you don't have a wristband, let me know, because I don't know how you got in here.
If you don't have a wristband,
come see the Star Wars t-shirt, the beautiful Star Wars t-shirt, I'm sorry. And we're going to call you up by color so that it's not literally everyone in the room immediately going up there to get book signed. So just keep that in mind. And I think we do have a few extra copies of the achievement. If you do at this juncture need to purchase several for your friends and family. But Sasha will come and sign more copies later. So if you miss out tonight, don't worry. There's plenty more opportunities for that. And we'll ship them in there. So just keep a heads up on that. So yeah, without further ado, join me in welcoming Sasha Peyton and Casey McQuiston.
Okay, cool. As you can see, it's been a while since we've done live events. This is your first one.
My first one.
Baby's first live.
I feel like I'm throwing a birthday party, and I was like, is anybody gonna come but my mom? And people other than my mom came, but my mom is here, which is also amazing. Mine is hard.
This is what I'm here for. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Would you like to say anything to the crowd?
Thank you all for coming. It's a really weird thing to put a book out in the world. You don't know if anybody's gonna care. You write it alone in your bedroom, and to like see people's faces of like all these people that I love and people that I don't know, which is like maybe even more meaningful. Truly means the world to me. I'm excited to have a conversation with you all tonight. Thank you.
Yes, I am very excited. For those of you who don't know, this is my best friend, Sasha Peyton Smith. We actually met years ago when we were both querying, both of us in the slush pile, figuring out what we were doing with our lives. And now I've been to Sasha's family Thanksgiving twice. I am honorary member of the Smith family, I like to think.
Oh, yeah.
And I am officiating her wedding. So, if nothing else, we did get that out of publishing.
I could never publish another book again, and it would have been worth it.
Yes, but you will publish many.
Listen.
The first of many. But yeah, I'm very thankful. Wait, is this one not working?
It's just a little, it's not working as well.
Is this, oh.
That's a spicier mic.
This is like karaoke.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm actually going to take off my cape.
Is this,
We're doing a word
this is a plan. This is a plan.
Somebody please cue some music. We are doing a reveal.
So there's a cape in my book. It's the school uniform of Pax Academy, and a very talented friend of mine sewed me one.
That's so very good.
Thank you so much, Liv Breaker.
I mean,
A good Instagram follow, that Liv Breaker.
look, I will say I do not have any bespoke garments for my book, so congratulations.
I made you custom sweatshirts for every single book you publish.
Did you sew them?
No, but in my heart I did.
This is very true. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining. For me, this is my first live event since last February, which is coincidentally also in DC.
On my birthday, not to make it about me.
Full circle, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's just jump in.
Dive in.
I'm gonna begin by asking you the question that I hate to be asked, but has to be asked at the top of every single conversation, which is, what was the inspiration for the Witch Haven? Which I just almost called Haven, which was the working title.
I still call it Pax Haven sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've always loved young adult novels. I've always been a big reader. I loved fantasy novels. And the Witch Haven kind of spawned from an idea that came from my own grandmother. So my dad's mother was a nurse. She did her nurse's training in New York City in the 1930s. And right as she was about to graduate, she thought she was going to go have this big career. And they said, we're so sorry to tell you, you have tuberculosis. And they put her in a tuberculosis sanitarium for 3 years. 3 years of her early 20s. They told her when she arrived, she had 6 months to live. And they locked her away. Right outside the city. She was taken away from her whole life, and she never really talked about it. But her sanitarium always kind of loomed large in my imagination. I imagined how strange it must have been to be a young woman in isolation. I wondered what her relationships were with the other patients in the sanitarium. I wondered how strange it must have been to have been so close to this like sparkling metropolis and locked inside. And that idea kind of loomed large in my brain and morphed into something different entirely, which is Haven, which is the school for witches in the book, that is disguised as a tuberculosis sanitarium. So that's where kind of the nugget of the idea came from. And then I just tried to fold in all these other things that I loved, young adult fantasy and angry girls and historical dresses and love triangles.
We'll get into
love triangles. Yeah, so it spawned from my grandmother, strangely enough.
I love that. And I believe she does get a shout out, the famous acknowledgement.
She is in the acknowledgements, yes. She was allegedly a big reader. I emailed my aunt recently, and she told me that my grandmother and her friends had something called the 19th Century Club, where they would meet and they would each present an essay on like a topic of interest, and I hope they were drinking. But I was like, did my grandmother invent the PowerPoint party? Because that sounds really fun.
I think she did. I think she was way ahead of her time.
Yes.
But yes, great answer, and we will segue that directly into. So there are some really great themes in this book about power, about magic as sort of a symbol of agency, especially for women. And obviously it's set in a pre-suffrage New York City. All of that is kind of percolating under the surface of this book while we're supposedly having a conversation about magic. So do you want to talk about how you played with those themes and what you were trying to do in using that to tell the story?
Yeah, absolutely. So magic is a pretty literal metaphor for power. I'm certainly not the first author to make that connection. And there's a line in the book that says to be a witch is to have power and more women have none. I wanted to explore what it would be like to give this girl who lives in 1911 New York City, she's poor, her family is gone, she has very, very little power, to give her literal magic and what that would look like and how she'd use it and how she'd want to use it. 1911 was a really strange kind of transitory time regarding what it meant to be particularly a woman in America. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, so women were working outside the home in droves rather than home cottage industries for the first time, but they still had very little in the way of financial and social power. It was the year of the Triangle Shirley's factory fire. The suffragette movement was kind of starting, but it was still very much based in racism and classism. I wanted to explore how women would use power differently than men, which is pretty evident in the book. So it's certainly an exploration of power more than it is an exploration of magic in this world of which you can.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines of the book is when Frances says that she plans to become so powerful she no longer needs to be protected.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, magic is a real way out for her. And she's kind of scrambling as she gets to this school that's fairly oppressive as to okay, I've been given this gift, now what? And it makes her kind of desperate and urgent because she wants to figure out how to get out using this thing she's just been gifted, the first real gift of her life.
Yeah. Well, and without getting too spoilery, one thing I love about this book is I feel like I have seen a lot of magical school stories, magical boarding school, and I loved that this was an exploration of what if you got to that school and it did not solve all your problems, and in fact it was kind of messed up in a lot of ways that seem very familiar to the life you just came from.
Yeah, this actually sucks.
Yeah. So why did you decide to kind of explore magic, a magical school as an environment where this is still happening? Frances is learning how to make a bed with magic.
Yeah. So she gets to the Haxhaven, the school for witches, and is basically told, the world is not kind to women with power, so we're going to do our best to protect you. And that's what this whole thing is. So we're going to learn how to magically thread a needle and clean a carpet, and you're going to go back and you're going to be a really good daughter and a really good wife. Which again goes back to that exploration of what would women have done to protect themselves? What would women have done with this power? And Frances gets really frustrated really quickly and finds this whole group of girls that were equally as frustrated. I liked the idea that the witch school wasn't the form of escape that Frances needed. I think that would have been too easy. I don't think it would have been true to the time period, and it also would have made for a less interesting story. I tried some drafts for Haxhaven. It was a little bit more fun.
A little more girl boss.
It was they were girl bossing, they were gatekeeping, they were gaslighting. They were slave cleaning. And it was less fun to read.
I not to flex, but I did read one of your earliest drafts.
I don't know if this is.
I think it is. It was about half the length of the finished product.
Yes.
But it was so much fun to watch how this book kind of evolved and developed. And there were some big structural changes that you made. One of the biggest ones was in the first draft that I read, Haxhaven was actually in upstate New York, and now in the current one that we are reading, it is in Queens. So do you want to talk a bit about the big developmental changes that were made, how this book evolved, and why you made those choices, and how you think that they changed the overall story?
Yeah. So I really taught myself how to write a book as I wrote Book Chain. It went through a lot of drafts. My agent is watching this and she's probably nodding a lot. Yeah, Hillary's so many drafts. So it changed a lot. So the original Haxhaven was in upstate New York. And it's funny, as I started this book, I was living in suburban Utah, and I had this idea of 1911 New York City, and I kind of thought, well, I want this creepy woods atmosphere for Haxhaven, and I want Frances to be in the forest late at night. And as somebody who didn't live in a city at that time, I thought okay, well, she has to be hours outside of the city to get that kind of experience. And it's funny, now that I live in DC, I know that that's not true. Now that I'm in New York City so much better, I'm really interested by these kinds of weird liminal outdoor spaces that exist in cities. And I find it really interesting to put Frances in the wilds of Forest Park in Queens, which is so close to like the sparkly Manhattan she grew up, but so different atmospherically. It was something that was really fun to explore. Oh gosh, I think so many things changed. Oh, I was my favorite at it. So one of my favorite scenes in the book, I will not spoil it, but it used to be a scene where Frances and Oliver met up to have a conversation, and they sit at a restaurant. And I'm like trying to put action into this scene where they're just like sitting at a table. We're making it dynamic. It's like the scene in Harry Met Sally when they're having a conversation, they're doing the wave. It's like, I'm like trying to add some action into this conversation. And I had lost my mind at this point. I put so many drafts in. It's like, I know what I'll do. And there used to just be like a cat eating a meatball in the corner. It lasted for I loved Spaghetti Cat. Justice for Spaghetti Cat. I think the only people who read the Spaghetti Cat drafts were Casey and my other writing partner, Emily. Long Live Spaghetti Cat. I don't know why. Forever in Our Hearts, Spaghetti Cat. I don't know why that was my choice. Looking back on it, I'm like, why was that the action that I just like a long page like I was in the meatballs across the floor. The cat sees the meatball. It's like very emotionally charged scene.
That's what we call that.
That's listen. So when you read The Witch Haven, it's not on the page, but I want you to picture in every scene there's a cat eating meatball. No, it's not in the text, but I want you.
Yes. I would also love you to tell everybody one of my very favorite things about the final version is the new building in which Haven is housed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a bit about that like historic structure?
Yes, so I was looking, when I decided I was going to move Haven from upstate New York into the city, I was looking for places for this school to exist, but still kind of like the atmosphere that I wanted, and I came across Forest Park in Queens, which is it's a real place, it's a real park. It's like it's 150% the size of Central Park. It's huge. It doesn't still have a lot of infrastructure. And right on the edge of this park, I found this old building surrounded by a wall that used to be a monastery. It's a real place that exists. And now Maxine has a line in the book where she is like, we're a school, or we're a sanitarium because people don't typically bother us pretending to be a sanitarium. We tried to be a school. And men came looking for wives, and we used to be a monastery because they left the nuns alone, but then the church started asking questions.
As they do.
Yeah, so trying to find like new ways to hide this school as society evolves, I think was probably kind of a fun challenge for the witches.
And it was fun for me to read.
Yeah, thank you.
So I also would love to talk to you about Frances, our girl, our main girl, our best girl. She is, I love seeing different people respond to her because like she's Frances. And like every good female YA protagonist, I think that there's different opinions on her as a character.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about how you developed her and what you wanted her to be to the reader.
Yeah. So Frances is a 17-year-old seamstress. She lives in 1911 New York. She grew up in this tenement. Her brother has been murdered 4 months before the events of the book start. She's angry and she's sad. And I wrote her, I think, for my 17-year-old self, who was angry and sad, for fewer reasons than Frances had. I was just angry and sad because I was 17.
No one was murdered.
No one was murdered. Yeah, and Frances just has this like pit of like sadness and wanting within her, and it makes her really desperate for magic. It makes her really desperate to find out what happened to her brother, and she's really longing for family again, which she finds at Haven, but she's longing for peace as well, which she doesn't find. And I think she starts to, lose it a little bit as she, seeks out the kind of magic that she thinks is going to let her get justice for her brother, and then will therefore be for peace again. She's looking to just like feel okay in this way that makes her make some choices that are a little selfish and a little ill thought through. I wanted Frances to feel, real and vivid and 17.
Yeah.
Like Frances at 17 doesn't make the same choices that like my 29-year-old self would make.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting to watch readers respond to her, and that some readers don't, which is fine. I think that, she's 17 and kind of a complicated person to have people be like, Frances, her choices really annoyed me. One makes me feel like,
a lot of my choices at 17 annoy me now.
all of my choices at 17 make me feel like I did my job. The people who are like, oh, I saw myself in Frances, and the people I just want to give them up to. So I'm like, me too. Yeah, she's trying, Frida is fundamentally trying her best.
Yeah.
It's not always the best, but it's her best.
That's what matters.
And that's what matters.
Okay, so I really want to segue into my personal favorite question of the evening. I know you know what's coming. But so obviously this is YA fantasy. And a staple, in my opinion, a staple of the YA fantasy genre that I find very exciting is the love triangle, which is a very controversial take. So I would love to just open the floor to you. Talk about YA fantasy love triangles, the best and worst, your controversial hot takes on them, why you love them, and why you decided to play with this in this book. And I would love for you to say some things that are going to make people yell at you.
Please, let's get into it. Love triangle. I love a love triangle. I know, I sometimes think, yeah. Let's hear it for love triangles. It is not a universal opinion. Love triangles are, some people love, some people will not read it because of love triangle. Yeah. I love a YA love triangle. I mean, this book, in a lot of ways, is like my love letter to YA fantasy. Like, I have a lot of YA fantasy tropes in this book that I did on purpose because I love this genre. But I love a love triangle. I love the idea of being presented at kind of like a formative age, like 16, 17, 18, to people that represent like two different versions of yourself. You don't know who you are at 17. You're thinking about all the people that you could possibly be. And to be like, I could be this person with this love interest, or I could be this kind of person with this love interest. I think is a really interesting reflection of like your own personal growth. I think they're super fun to read. I think that they offer a really interesting chance for introspection. I think that it is not always super realistic when you're presented this like, perfect, dreamy, singular love interest at 16. You're like, well, that's my husband forever. I don't think that's as interesting as being like, here's some people that you could potentially love, and what are you gonna do? Because I think that that's closer to life. I think that that's closer to being a teenager. I also just think they're fun to read. I love the tension. So Casey is a love triangle defender. My other writing partner, Emily, they stress her out. And we were talking in the car earlier today, and Emily was like, are you going to get up in front of those people and you're going to publicly say that you're Chin Gale? It was such a friendly crowd.
Before we walked out, I was like, you can't go wrong. This is it's not a tough room.
No. They've all turned on me.
Please. For the record, I was always Team PETA, and I don't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I love my controversial love triangle opinions. I'm Team Jacob and I'm Team Gail.
Wow.
We don't acknowledge breaking down Jacob, but like clips Jacob, like okay, helped her. He's age appropriate.
Speaking of clips, I do think we need to discuss one of the greatest tropes of YA love triangle history.
Yes.
Which is when the heroine is pretending to sleep and the two love interests discuss their feelings for her.
Yep.
Literally nothing has ever been a better depiction of what every teenage girl would like to happen.
It's the ultimate fantasy. Also, we've talked about this in the Twilight. It's just the ultimate fantasy of being noticed.
Yes.
Of being 17 and having people walk into a school and be like, "Who's that?" That is the ultimate fantasy of Twilight.
Yeah, but you still get to be like, I'm so shy.
Yeah, you're like me. Which I've never been this serious day in my life, and then I would have shown up at that school and been like, "Here's all my business."
I think that one of the most important things you can take away from Twilight and learn from the teenage brain about Twilight is the inherent hotness of if the most attractive person in school was obsessed with you.
Yeah.
That is something I think that every teen on some level is like, but that would be cool.
Oh, it really gets your brain going. Yeah, so the heroine is pretending to be sleeping, the two love interests. It exists in the Twilight scene in Eclipse, it exists in the third Hunger Games book, in that lady's basement. The only spoiler that I will give you for book 2 is that it does exist in book 2. It is happening. I mean, it needs to be edited, so my editor needs to be good. As of this draft,
they're gonna fight for it. It's the new Spaghetti Cat.
I did not fight for Spaghetti Cat. I let Spaghetti Cat die. I was so easily.
I was before we went out for Spaghetti Cat. You didn't even fight for it.
I didn't even fight for him. I'm so sorry.
Wow. Hey, it really is your own friend. All right. Thank you for getting yourself canceled.
Should I leave?
I think we should. I'll wrap up
You're just gonna do karaoke for the
I'm
next
gonna
30
do
minutes.
Somebody cue those music. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's
Everybody's like, no, don't tell her.
But I do think this is a good segue into this question that I think is really fun. We discussed it earlier. I think that like one thing that I like to do when I start a new project is I literally like make a list of all of the like movies, books, TV shows, music that I think are like the vibe of it, and just consume nothing but that for a couple weeks. And I kind of it's definitely a form of procrastination. But to me, I view it as like developing the fluency and like what I want the book to be, and like setting like a mental stage for it, which is.
I've seen these books. They're pretty impressive.
Yes. But so I would love to hear like what like works, what pieces of art, what pieces of media do you feel that which is like kind of in conversation with, or like even just like on the same wavelength as.
Yeah. If you've read the book or even know anything about the book, it probably does not surprise you that I'm a huge Lily Bray stan, who is a master of historical fantasy, and the way that she's able to tie in, relevant themes into historical fantasy is absolutely brilliant. So Libba Bray is somebody whose career is an inspiration, his writing is an inspiration. Vibes-wise, just like a Greta Gerwig, Little Women, like there's girls, they're complicated, it's sepia tone.
They're lying around.
They are lying, they are verklempt.
They're standing out.
Oh my god, like any movie, I guess like any like A24, like Jerry Wright movie where like
Maybe Virgin Suicide.
yeah, and any woman is like stood on a hill and like had her hair blow behind her.
It's Keira Knightley adjacent.
It's Keira Knightley adjacent, far from the matting crowd, you're just like upset in a copse of trees.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read like good magic books. Everything is left my brain other than just like a
no thoughts, just vibes.
just like a Florence Pugh like frown on a meadow.
I definitely see that, and I definitely see like every. Knowing you, I know every song you've ever cried to.
Yeah.
They're all playing in my mind right now. Like Favorite Crime by Olivia Rodrigo is like on loop.
Yeah, I actually have playlists that I made for each of the characters that I will probably release later this week.
Cross media plug.
We love it. Follow me on Instagram. I was laughing. I was like, I feel like Frances is, and I may be jumping your question.
Do not step on
Okay,
my
I'm gonna jump your
question.
question. You're ahead.
Okay, no, just do it. You started it.
I'm sorry. We were talking about media. And obviously, the book takes place in 1911. Media that I heard consume. I feel like Frances is Taylor Swift stan. Lena is the Lord stan, and Maxie's a
But
stan.
Lena is not really feeling so well.
Lena's not into it.
It's okay.
She's listening to Rip. Sorry.
She's happy for Lord.
Yeah, we're all happy for Lord.
Yeah, we are.
She's wearing a yellow crop top.
Just like some of us are not there at this moment.
I'm not in Florida. I'm still a
You're still
Melodrama. I will forever be a Melodrama.
It is still BuzzFeed season for Sasha.
Always. Every day.
BuzzFeed season for Sasha. Wow. So that was incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think those are some amazing parts. I think they track very, very well.
Yeah.
Every time I think of this book, I literally just like have like girls spinning around like a very slow motion, like ring around the rosy, and there's like a lantern falling down and it's lighting something.
Yeah. The Taylor Swift Willow video.
Oh yeah.
Big Mexican energy.
Just nightgowns.
Just a nightgown in a forest, like an Edison bulb.
Are we now just discussing your like wedding?
Yes.
Right.
No thoughts, just vibes. I'm going to sit here and just list adjectives for the next 20 minutes.
We're just gonna do some free association poetry.
No. Victorian nightgown. Taylor Swift and Carly Kloss's feud. I can't get it.
We don't have the time. Okay. Well, I feel like I already asked you about setting the research, but is there anything else? I think I just know you and I know like the piles and piles of research that you did for this book, especially like all of the Sons of St. Juan stuff. Like there's so much going on in this book that is actually, while fictionalized, really rooted in some like a lot of heavy research you did.
So I did a lot of research in this book. Every historical event that is described, like kind of pinpointed event that is described as something that's real that happened. So, kind of in the latter half of the book, she goes to a political fundraiser at the Hotel Astor for Governor Dix. It's real. Like, that was a real event that happened that I read about in a 1911 newspaper. The Sons of St. Germain are based kind of heavily on Tammany Hall. For anybody who knows about the turn of the century history, Tammany Hall is this like gentleman's club / political organization that ran in New York City for upwards of 50 years. I was laughing. There used to be a scene where Frances had to like, get back into the city really quickly, and I was going to have her take the subway, and it was on this deadline. I was so close to being done. I really wanted to get it in the next day. Trying to revise this scene and get Frances into the city, and my fiance and I, like, we the energy like we're tracking a serial killer, like the end of Criminal Minds. We're like, we almost got it. We're pulling up like old subway maps. Charles is like, okay, that stop didn't exist yet, but it was built in 1913. So we can't use it. Like, we were like panicking.
Get it away.
Like the energy that we are bringing to this moment. We're like on my floor, and it ends up being like 2 lines. And like, Frances, hop on the subway. Like, it immediately got edited out. That scene got changed. Like,
But it's in the book. It's in the bones.
it's in the bones. I mean, you don't read the book. It's historical. Like, you know, it's historical fiction. I'm certainly not a historian. But I never wanted to write something that took you out of the moment. I never wanted somebody who knows more than me to be like, well, actually, that subway stop existed in 1913.
Well, and but on the flip side, like I do think it is distracting when you're reading a historical fiction, and it's like very clear the author wants you to know how much research they did.
Yeah.
And it's like I really don't need to know this much about like their hairpins.
Yeah,
at this
like
moment,
I'm good.
You know,
Yeah.
like let's just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we did a great job.
Thank you. Spent a lot of time in the Library of Congress. Shout out to the Library of Congress.
Shout out to the Library.
Shout out to like people who archive newspapers. I read so many 1911 newspapers. A lot of really fun ads.
Yeah.
It was like, feeling tired, do cocaine.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, they're on.
We can't make this.
We can't.
This is why.
It's a book for you.
Anything else? Any other fun tidbits that you'd love to like? Was there like a historical fact that you learned that like whether or not it made it in was really exciting and interesting or weird or funny to you?
One that really sticks in my head is that women. I mean, these two wear their like these like big bouffants, and what they do is they would take like the old hair from their brushes and they sort of roll it up and then they stuff that in their hair to make it bigger. It was like the original Muppet.
Oh,
Just got old hair.
is the original like putting that like weird little like dish sponge?
Yeah, the original sock bun was just your own hair. They called them rats.
See, that's like more sustainable.
It probably works pretty well. That's what you're just gonna do. I mean, agreed. Yeah. Mallory just said wedding hair. Don't tell him he's right here.
If you feel like she's got more hair than usual on the wedding day,
Don't touch it.
it's adjustment. Yeah. Okay, so I have some like fun sort of thought exercise questions. These are my favorite kinds, sort of segue. Also, can I get a time check? How are we doing on time?
It is 7:35.
Oh, we got a minute.
We're doing great on time. Can I get like a 10-minute warning so we can jump to Q&A, please?
Right.
Thank you. So much appreciated. Much appreciated. All right, anyway. So let's have some fun with some thought exercises.
Yay!
So one of my favorite little, like, I love anytime a book introduces a thing as an opportunity for me to do a personality test and think about my own psyche. I'm like, great, I'm here for this.
Yep.
Love to be obsessed with myself. So one of my favorites, in this book, there's a part, and this is not a major spoiler, it's a minor, very minor spoiler. So there's a part where they are going to do a spell where you can like set something small on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves like saying the incantation and then like the name of a person or thing that you love.
Yep.
And so my question to you is to name some things. They cannot be anyone that you personally know.
Okay.
So name some things that you would use for that incantation.
This is really
Things that you love enough that they could perform magic for you.
Oh my God. How terrible is it that my first thought was just the menu of the Cheesecake Factory? Okay.
Is it like lobster ravioli?
Oh, it's gotta be the burger that's just fried mac and cheese on the burger. It's just so many different food experiences in one way.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, the Cheesecake Factory, the Wasatch Mountains, shout out to Utah.
Shout out to Utah. Sasha's family has a beautiful view of Wasatch Mountains. I have been there. Not to flex. Try the potato.
Maybe that's my mom's mashed potatoes. My mom's Thanksgiving mashed potatoes.
Yes.
Thanked in the acknowledgements of Home Stop.
Yes. They're very good.
They are pretty good.
There's like a whole brick of cream cheese in them.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Let's see. The album Melodrama by Lorde.
Yes.
My college car, the Honda Fit.
Yes.
It had so many drink holders, like 8, like right
Is
up front.
this the one that smelled like a swimming pool?
No, that was my car here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It did smell like an indoor swimming pool because the sunroof leaked. I also think a family of wasps lived under the hood. It was their home. Who was they to figure that out?
So you just got a different car.
I just bought a different car. Oh my gosh.
Should I name some?
I want to name some.
Okay, for me, one of the first things I thought of, oh my god, I can't believe this is just what popped into my mind, but I thought of baby bottle pops.
I love a baby bottle pop.
I like a blue raspberry baby bottle pop.
Your mouth's
Like
great blue.
specifically the sense of where you're like getting it from like the checkout like Blockbuster when you're renting like an N64 game and like 2 DVDs of like Disney sequels that went straight to video.
Yeah, and your parent is like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great vibes.
That hits.
Yes, so that's one. I would say, so can I personally know? I mean, I do feel like I would say Princess Diana. Maybe.
Oh, God.
I do love her a lot.
I love her.
And I've just recently re-listened to all of the episodes of You're Wrong about her.
So good.
Which are very good. Thank you. Snaps for the You're Wrong About episodes of Princess Diana.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would also say, I really, really love. I'm thinking of Taco Bell.
You love Taco Bell.
I eat vegetables.
Oh wait, can I say Waffle House?
Yeah.
Love Waffle House.
I love a BK5 layer burrito.
I do know this about you. Every time Casey has come to DC, we have gone.
It's our tradition.
It's our tradition. We go and we get Taco Bell. We sit and we eat it on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yes, it's we have done
We haven't done it yet.
We need to do it.
We need to do it.
I mean, it's a different era than the last few times we did.
Yes.
We've not yet done it during COVID.
We did once see an absolutely stunning proposal. It's like the most
Yes.
beautiful sunset I've ever seen in DC. And Casey and I are like eating Doritos Logos tacos. And we're like, congratulations!
Absolute garbage, like full on sex.
Yeah. And we're like, what's up? This is a new proposal.
Oh my god!
It was great. It was really romantic for them and for us. It was a beautiful night.
Yes. So yeah, definitely Taco Bell and some specific Taco Bell memories. I have a lot of those.
Yeah.
I also would, again, another Taco Bell menu item, but the chili cheese burrito, which is a discontinued menu item that you can only find at like certain Taco Bells in the country. There's
Sort of live up that, right?
go to chilicheese.org. There is a chili cheese burrito track.
A plug-in for chili cheese stuff. Everybody plug
This is not sponsored. This is not sponsored by chilicheese.org,
But we wish that it was.
Do you have any more that you want to add?
Can I say your dog Pepper?
Yes, she's great. I have not seen her in a few days, and it makes me very sad.
No.
But she's wonderful.
I miss her.
Yeah, she's a great peddler.
She's got good energy.
She loves to be cool.
She sure does.
And that's all you can ask for.
It's true.
Yes, those were some great answers.
From you as well.
All I said was like I've never put like an organic food in my body in my life.
Well, look at you now.
Just look at me. I'm 30 years old and I have not touched
Thriving.
Yeah, I am 5'2" and that might be.
That's probably it.
But anyway, okay. So another thing along the personality test vein is a lot of the different characters in this book, based on their natural abilities, based on like their just general vibes, I would say, have different areas of expertise where they're naturally the strongest. Like for example, manipulation, or like object manipulation, or clairvoyance, or finding people with gifts. Have you ever thought about what your area of natural expertise would be?
Well, I've always said I think that if I existed in a fantasy world, I would be like the most boring person in that fantasy world. One question I get kind of often as an author now is like, what book do you want to spend a day in? And I'm like, oh, none of them. I do not have a high tolerance for like being uncomfortable or being in danger.
Yeah.
So I would probably say object manipulation, because the idea of being able to like lay on a couch and like levitate myself a Diet Coke feels like the best possible use of magic. I would use magic to like make my life as easy as possible. Yeah. I'm not wiping the counter at like the bar in the back while like people are sword fighting. I'm like, man, that's pretty scary. Look at those guys.
Yeah, do you guys do you mind taking some audience Q&A? And
Yeah.
From the virtual audience.
Oh, yeah, would you like to feed us some virtual
I would love to. I'm going to try to
Lots
use
of questions.
this mic will work for me.
Yeah.
So that the people here watching can hear their Thank you both.
Yes.
Such amazing
Here, wait, I think
questions.
you're.
Yeah, I'm a little,
I
I'm
don't know if I can help you with this.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just gonna sit here. This is great. This is how you plan this. So, Colby, who's watching virtually, asks, do you feel like writing The Witch Haven gave you your own sort of power? How did it make you feel writing such strong, empowering characters?
Oh, thank you, Colby. That's so nice. I think I know that Colby asked. I believe he's watching from Scotland. So shout out to Colby.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I started The Witch Haven when I was 23, and I was weird and sad, and I didn't know what my life was going to be. So I really feel like I grew up with this book. Like, I kind of figured out what I was going to be as an adult, like, as I wrote this book, and some of that was due to this book. I'm glad that she thinks that my characters are strong. I owe that a lot to, the women and the people in my life. They can model those kinds of behaviors, particularly my grandmother, who really inspired this book. I think balancing a level of feeling like, Frances and Lena and Maxine in particular, feel like they're risk takers and feel like they're in control of their own destiny. Also, they're teenagers. I wanted them to also feel kind of vulnerable and like they could fail and they are going to make wrong choices. And that there's power in that too, and that the power is, admitting that you were wrong and finding forgiveness and being honest with yourself about your emotions, is something that I also kind of try to like imbue these characters with. So that's a good question. Thank you, Colby.
Such a good response. Colby also says the world deserves to eat spaghetti cat sauce.
Spaghetti cat. Really, spaghetti cat has a spaghetti cat. The spaghetti cat cut on The Witch Haven.
I think just write into the sequel.
Well, no spoilers. Spaghetti cat rides again. We were looking for a title, so.
Another question from a virtual viewer. How would Frances get along with the red, white, and royal blue characters?
Yes.
Okay, you go.
Oh my gosh, I feel like Frances and Henry would like have a nice cup of tea together, and they'd like each other.
They would like each other because it would be dead silent.
It would be dead silent, and they'd never hang out again.
Yeah.
But it would really, that was a pleasant
What
interaction.
a great time hanging out with my friend Henry.
Yeah.
Who I literally sent through.
Yeah, and Henry would be like, what a nice afternoon. Frances and Alex would find each other exhausting.
No, they would not.
They would not like each other.
However, Alex and Maxine would vibe so well.
Alex and Maxine would love each other, and I think August and Frances would really love each other.
August and Frances also would enjoy a very quiet afternoon together, but they would also like August would be like, oh, you got a dead record, we're gonna get this figured out like immediately.
The book would be half the length of August was there. August would be like, here's how you actually solve a murder.
You have to stop looking at this cute guy.
Yeah. August is like, focus. Yeah, August would have been much better.
Yeah.
Like,
But you know what? It's important that she's not there because then we would get love triangle.
yeah, the love triangle.
We need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same way. Like I said, I think Maxine and Alex would fight super hard, like share clothes. Like,
Yep.
It would be a great time.
Yep.
And I feel like June would be like really into like the girl boss and gaslighting. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I feel like Nora and Lena would have a nice time.
Yeah.
Like, they hang out. Because they have big, like, look at these idiots, like, I'm going
Yeah,
that energy.
They would just be like muttering under their breath to each other in the background, while everybody else is just doing very silly things.
Yes.
Yes. So, thank you for that.
That was from Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
And please write this mashup.
Yeah, well, there'll be some nighttime trouble, but I have introduced the possibility of that.
We have in the cinematic
In
universe.
the CMQ universe.
Yep.
I hate that. I'm sorry.
I love that you said that.
Charlene asks, did you have to abandon any characters or plot lines as you moved the story along?
Well, there was this cat.
It was a beautiful, beautiful boy. He loved spaghetti. So many plot lines. Like, the ending used to be completely different. The killer used to be completely different. Oh my gosh, Emily, I'm like trying to remember like specific ones other than spaghetti. I have spaghetti cat brain.
Finn is very different from original.
Original
I
Finn.
don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. There, it used to be kind of more an ensemble look, actually. I really had to narrow it down to Lena, Maxine, and Frances, who always kind of wore the three main witches. But there used to be a lot more scenes of Frances just like sitting in class talking to Ruby, or like hanging out with Agnes, or like, like there were a lot more characters, and it was hard to keep track of. But I had a lot of these characters like in my brain. Like, hey, she's here. She was like appears like walking in the background.
I'm going to assume that Charlene really meant that. It's just only to talk about spaghetti cat, but that was a great answer as well. Okay, so this is a question from, I think, someone that you may know. Cassie, is that your agent?
Cassie's my publicist.
Okay, great. So Cassie asks a very important question. If each character was a member of BTS, who would they be?
Oh, guys, thank you, Cassie, for giving me an opportunity to talk about BTS. I say this is my Cassie publicist, I might be Cassie. Okay, let's see. You can help me answer this.
Do I?
You can help me. I feel, who's Frances? Frances? Is she too young?
No.
No, she's not cool enough.
No.
Respectfully, Frances does not have an artistic vision.
No, she doesn't. Okay. No, you're right. Respectfully. Okay. Frances might be Yoongi, but she's like pretty in her own head.
Yeah. Depressed.
Like she takes a lot of naps.
Yeah.
She's trying her best.
Yeah. Secretly though, like way more talented than like anyone expected.
And like secretly the glue in these relationships, and she'd be like, well, these could go on without me, but like actually good, like really, well, Frances, we love you.
Sure.
It's Maxine Jen. I gave her a good time.
I feel like Maxine, because fashion.
Yeah.
I don't, not to like reduce her to like, she dresses cool.
She does dress cool. Yeah, it might be Jen. Here for a good time. Funny, much smarter than they let on. A little more emotional than they let on. Lena might be driven. Kind of
Say more.
hot. A baby of the group. Good at diffusing tension when need be, but also good at like giving side eye when need be.
Wait, what is Lena's sign?
Lena is, what is Lena? Frances is an Aquarius. Maxine is a Virgo.
Shout out to Aquarius.
And Lena's a Taurus.
Wow.
Yeah. She's steady.
We love that tracks good sign.
Yeah, she's on it.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to divert us into zodiac.
Oliver's named June, and
Well, who is Finn?
Finn. I'm trying to think why I left. Artistic vision, looks good in the suit.
Great job.
Yeah, great job.
Okay.
I want to make sure we have time for in-person questions as well, but I just want to prioritize this on a personal priority. What is Frances? This is Logan asking. What is Frances's favorite Taylor album, song, Boyfriend? Parentheses, not Joe. It says also, I specifically want to talk to you later about the Carly Claus thing because I have a lot to say.
Listen, I constantly. Okay, Frances, listen, she's a fall gal. She's depressed. She's a red stan.
Oh, yeah.
She's real happy for Taylor and Joe, but she wishes that Taylor and Harry could make it work. And maybe that's the part of Frances that is me.
Once again, we're back to love.
Once again, we are back. I think there's something to know about.
Excellent. Again, we'll talk later.
We'll talk later.
And thank you to everyone who is tuning in virtually.
Thank you.
I'll take some questions from in-person people here. Does anyone have a question? I asked them. Yes, in the purple mask.
Oh, I'm also here, so give the extreme priority. What are you reading right now?
I'm going to repeat all the questions just so that people watching know. So the question was, what are you reading right now?
I just finished Malibu Rising. I stayed up until 3 a.m. the night before last year. I was like, I gotta sleep before everybody comes into town for my book launch, and stayed up till 3 a.m. I read Malibu Rising in one sitting.
I love books that make you do that. I did that the other night. Where it was, but I just
Yeah. You're gonna go to bed. It's so funny because I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, but Malibu Rising, I don't love surfing. I didn't particularly, the premise didn't really love me, but the minute I sat down, I was like, whoa, love a complicated sibling story. So yeah, I just finished Malibu Rising. What about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just picked up, based on like some like absolutely bonkers reviews I've seen online, I just picked up the new Colleen Hoover Verity,
Let me know how you like it.
which like literally the Amazon review said something to the effect of like, this book is not a read, it's a visceral experience. And I'm like, oh,
Sign me up.
all right, sold. Add to Kindle. Yeah, so I just picked up. I haven't really gotten a chance to read. It opens with like a very grisly traffic accident.
Ooh.
Like literally the first line is something I don't even want to say in this room because it is very graphic. And it just, I was like, whoa, this is kind of really, really hot, and I don't know if this is the vibe from 2K.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna come back to it very soon though. In the meantime, I don't know what I'm gonna read. I just finished reading an advanced copy of Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is the new one she's coming out next year, and I loved it. It was very cute, very sweet, very meta, like industry romance stuff, which is fun. Yeah, so that's what I've been reading.
Sorry, those are great answers. Is anything else? Oh yes, hello.
I want to know what your favorite YA or fanfiction tropes are. Not love triangle.
Not the love triangle.
Favorite YA or fantasy tropes?
But not, yeah.
Love triangles, right?
Not love triangle.
Excellent.
Okay. I love enemies to lovers and lovers to enemies. Like, give it to me both ways. I love just one bed. Who could have seen it coming? The inn is full. Love just one bed. I love a slow burn friends to lovers, like that. Like, it's gotta be slow. Like, give me like 500 pages before they like have a sidelong glance.
I am like a huge fan. I like my first YA coming out next year. One of my favorite tropes that I've always loved, and like YA specifically, like movies and TV shows for teens, is like climbing through your crush's window on a ladder. So I literally put it into the book as maybe like it's probably in there 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And they're in and out of windows. Never. No one's using a door. So that's like a huge favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Thank you to Clarissa Explains It All for that. Not to like throw out a deep cut. I know some of you are YA readers, which means you may be younger, which means I'm very old. Let's see, what else do I really love? You know what I like to read. I really like. I am like a huge fan of anybody who is like an academic rival.
Yeah.
Like I love. Like I am like doing it for the people who wish there have been like more going on between like Rory and Paris on.
Yeah. You love a fun family. You're great at let's throw a party to solve a problem.
Yeah, I love a party scene. I love a gratuitous karaoke moment.
Yeah.
I love any chance I have to like insert some musical number here.
Heath Ledger in 10 Things I Hate About You
Yes.
lives in your brain always.
I think if I could like break down 10 Things I Hate About You scene by scene, you would see that like there's a reference, like spiritually or on purpose, to almost every single moment of that movie. Like I've said this before, that I do think the high that I'm always chasing when I'm writing is like that moment in the parking lot when Kat sees the guitar in her car, and she turns around and Patrick is there and they kiss, and then it zooms out and letters to Cleo is playing on the roof of the school. That's the high that I'm chasing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our answer.
That's it.
So many icons. Can I think about you and Chris Explains It All in the same answer? This is amazing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, in the blue. Thank you. I can't see your face.
Book 1 and book 2, which is folklore and which is evermore.
Ooh, what a good, great question. Thank you for letting me be a Taylor Swift stand publicly tonight, you guys. I think book 2 is folklore and book 1 is evermore. Book 2 is a little bit more fun.
Is this a good segue into Sasha teases us about the sequel?
The sequel, the teaser that I'll give for the sequel is that the entire idea for the sequel came. Casey and I were staying in a like 17th century Quaker farmhouse in the middle of Virginia in front of like a roaring fire. We're both fully horizontal, and Casey goes, "What if Oliver studied abroad?"
No, when I pitched you was like, okay, imagine this. Oliver's got like a baguette in his mouth.
Yep. He's got a terrible mustache.
He has gone full study abroad Oliver.
Yep.
He's like, oh yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm calling.
Yeah. So the teaser that I'll give you is study abroad Oliver. The book does not all take place in New York. We get to see a little more of the magical world. The characters really have to deal with the consequences of their actions from book one.
Why?
Well, why? It's so much easier to get away with it. Yeah, so I don't want to spoil too much because I know a lot of you not read book one.
Well, let's loop back around to Folklore and Evermore in the two books.
Yes.
Please go on and explain these wine characters.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I feel like book two, we get a little, the one, we get a little Last Great American Dynasty. It's fun. We get a new city, we get some sparkly wealth. We got the one. She's sad in this winter. She's got a braid, and she's in the forest. Willow is playing.
Wow.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, we'll sort of separate. We'll do another event where it's just specifically Taylor Swift and the Witch Haven.
But speak now, Taylor says.
You're gonna give me the boost in her next time.
Yeah.
I think we might have time for one more that I want to make sure we get time enough to sign, and I'm going to pick Soko because
if you could have written one book that you've read, that you obviously did not write, in this what if magical universe, what could it be? And part two for your answer is, what is one genre of book that you want to explore in your never-ending life?
Thank you so much, Soko.
I'm going to repeat that with a virtual table real quick. So it was, if you could write one book that you obviously did not really write, but magically in this world you did write that book. And then part two was, if you could write a genre that you have not written, what would you write? Is that right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, because I feel like I've read a couple of books recently where I put it down and it's like, oh, I should have wrote that. Do you have an answer for this right off the top of your head? I'm trying to think. It's such a good question. I'm excited about books that I've read.
I feel that way. It's not that I wish I'd read it, it's just I wish I was smart enough to have even conceptualized either either Gideon Knight or Harold Knight.
Yeah.
Both of those books, I'm like, I literally, it's embarrassing how many times I'm just like Googling words to be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, I mean, like, just to even have the vocabulary would be great. But yeah, I wish that my brain worked that way, and I wish I could. I would love to explore fantasy. I think I was reading your book on the train here, and I was like, this seems so fun. I want to do this. Like nobody has to nobody has to use a phone.
Crazy. I wish they could just go to Target and use a phone. Okay, I think my answer is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It also is a devastating movie adaptation, and it strikes the kind of balance of pastoral and weird and their friends and what is going on that I wanted, that kind of unreality
Yeah.
that I want to capture in my books, that mounting sense of dread is just so masterfully done in that book. And the way that it straddles the line between bringing this beautiful British pastoral story about friends and the creepiest sci-fi book I've ever written or read. I wrote it. The creepiest sci-fi book I've ever read. Is super inspiring. I'd love to write rom-coms. I have 4 different rom-com ideas that I'm always kind of chipping away at. We were talking about it earlier today. My dream job would be to write Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah.
So Hallmark, if you're watching, let me write a Christmas movie.
You would be so good at it.
Listen, she's an aging ballerina. She returns to her hometown to put on a production of The Nutcracker. Who's there? The single dad who she broke up with in high
But
school.
he's also the son of Santa.
He's the sexy son of Santa, and he has to build the sets for The Nutcracker. It's Chris Kringle. What does your dad do? He's in the toy business.
Shipping and handling.
Did you just make that up right now?
This is actually verbatim a bit we did at lunch.
We did. My family is we already saw them do this.
However, we are very funny.
Yeah. I can make one. I'll prove to Hallmark I can do it.
I've never been more impressed.
This is actually, before we go, I do want to suggest a Hallmark movie watching game to everyone, which is have somebody name 3 objects and a venue or a setting of some kind, and you have 2 minutes to free associate a Hallmark plot.
Yep.
And I think if you write it down, you could genuinely get into the description.
For sure. The candy cane factory in Baton Rouge, Louisiana is closing, and a big city lawyer has been sent to town to close it, but she falls in love with the candy cane spider.
But it's Santa Claus's daughter.
It's Chrissy Kringle. Thank you all for being here for my book, The Witch.
Thank you guys. I'm just gonna say how amazing it is to have authors like you on and to be able to sell the fantastic books that you want.
And can we give a round of applause for one more page? Thank you so much.
And congratulations, thank you so much, this was amazing, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Of course, our virtual attendees. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slowly transition the authors to the signing station over here. Maybe we'll let them drink some water first, I don't know, we'll see. But I believe my beautiful Rebecca over here is gonna be calling up her scan colors